Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome Cuson, joined by my colleague Brian, as always. Here tonight, we are going to be discussing Jesus Christ Superstar. Last week, we were not in alignment at all about Godspell, but I think we are much more in alignment on this movie as we are going to be discussing it. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Click the bell icon for notifications. Please give a 4 or 5 star review to Apple and Spotify to get those algorithms going. And Brian, Jesus Christ Superstar, one of the most iconic songs of all time. But the first time that we heard the actual Jesus Christ Superstar song was WrestleMania 4, right? We're in agreement on this?
Yeah, because I think on the Coliseum video version they still had it, which is crazy to me if you think about it.
It was a double tape, sir. Of course I remember it.
But the thing is like they were removing a lot of copyrighted songs around that time and switching to Jim Johnson stuff, right? But somehow
On
that
the
slipped
VHS,
through.
on the VHS is not really. It's not really
Because I
until you get the
remember
DVD of it.
this in
DVD
SummerSlam
era.
'88. Like I remember I had the home version, right? The home pay-per-view version, which had the Superstar theme, and I could have sworn I heard it on like future Coliseum video stuff. But
I mean,
eventually
definitely
it
when
kind
you
of
get into
faded.
the DVDs, when you get into the DVDs, that's when they start
Yeah,
showing.
that's when they
But
started taking it out after 2001 and the lawsuit or whatever. Probably even before that, but and the reason it was used is because Superstar Billy Graham was managing Don Muraco at the time during his babyface run. So I'm assuming maybe Superstar was using this theme and we just didn't notice at the end of '87 when he had that brief comeback, and then his body just gave out after like a month. I don't know if you recall that because he was
steroids.
supposed to be steroids. He was supposed to be on the Hogan team, and then his body just gave out like completely. But I'm pretty sure he was using this because, like, Superstar, you know, Superstar Billy Graham, Jesus Christ Superstar just goes together.
I mean, which is
And this
amazing
idea,
to me because this version of the song, you don't really hear. I mean, you hear a little bit of it throughout the movie, but you don't really hear a full
yeah, it's
rendition
on
of
the
it
beginning and the
until the
end.
end.
It's on the beginning and the end, and I don't know if the musical has like more parts of the main song throughout, but it's basically a bookend in this one, which I was kind of like, oh, okay, because I was expecting more of that theme, but they kind of drifted into other songs, which I thought was good.
Okay, so you have logic problems with Godspell. How do you not have the same logic problems with Jesus Christ Superstar?
Oh, I that's my one issue. That's my main issue is the beginning. Like it should have just started in Jesus times. It should not have been like we're gonna park a van and start doing this interpretive thing. Like
See,
that
it's weird.
part
It's like
pissed me off.
It's the reverse Godspell.
It pissed me off, but I got over it because the story was like, okay, this is more of a coherent story, beginning, middle, and end. There's things going on. There's protagonist, antagonist stuff going on. We actually see the antagonists go doing their thing.
And Carl Anderson is giving one of the best performances that I've ever seen.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I don't know if it's one of the greatest of all time, but it steals the show in a movie
I
where
don't
the
know, man.
guy who
Like
plays
just
Jesus
his, I
steals the
mean,
show.
just his
Ted
facial
Neely
expressions and just the disgust that he exhibits. I mean, it's incredible
at the
stuff.
beginning, yeah, right, and then but then Ted Neely has these moments where he feels like he's like not. It's almost like Brett and Sean. Does that make sense? Kind of that vibe, or like two show stealers
Yes,
in the same movie,
yes.
and they keep like one up in each other until the end. It takes like it's almost as if Carl Anderson at the end kind of steals it at the end, but I think it was just two awesome, strong performances by both. Right, like
I
that's what
mean,
really
they
like
are the
draws me in.
standout performers. I think the rest of the everything else almost is immaterial. And I think the problem with this movie is that none of the other performances are really all that memorable. And I think the songs are inconsistent. Like I think the music has its moments certainly. And again, I'm not going to dispute Jesus Christ Superstar not being an incredible song. But like if you remove if you remove Ted Neely and Carl Anderson, this movie just doesn't work. I mean, but again, there's so much power in the Judas character, and I mean, look, it's not a coincidence that he's black and Jesus is white. Like, I think they're clearly going for some of that, even in 1973. Maybe because it's 1973, they're still playing into that. But I mean, the scene where Anderson hangs himself is quite haunting, and it is not something that I would have expected for this movie.
Well, let's just kind of put it straight how they did it because it looks like they literally hung him and then did a wide
No, he
shot
hung
and then
himself. He hung
I mean
himself.
that's what I'm saying. Like it looks like they actually had him hang himself, which of course they didn't, but I'm sure they rigged it in a way. But I
Yes.
mean, in 1973, usually when you have a lower kind of budget, you're just gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that mentality of like the Terminator thing. We're just gonna show up on location with no permits to shoot our shit and get out, right? And so they probably saw this tree and were like, we're gonna put this dude on there, hope he doesn't choke out and lose consciousness, and then get our shots and get out. I think that's what it was, and it worked because it was just so realistic, and the way he was dangling his feet, like goddamn. Um, but yeah, that was just like a tremendous shot. That and when they pulled wide and then showed the cast at the bottom of the in the foreground in the
Yes,
foreground, I guess, and it was the background, whatever. That was a tremendous like shot right there because that's one take. So the amount of like time and spacing a cinematographer had to come up with that shot probably took a while. So there's a lot of great cinematography here.
there is some very good cinematography. I
Yeah,
don't know. I think it's weird that like 50 minutes of the movie is like the crucifixion and whatnot. I don't know. Like that to me is very that is very much a trope of these movies that we're just going to focus on this part, and it's not something I've ever been a super huge fan of. And we're going to actually come back to this because Last Temptation of Christ has a really like the sequence begins around about halfway through, but the direction that it goes is very different, as you might imagine, because they're playing very fast and loose with the character and with the story. But in terms of this, like they're trying to keep it somewhat faithful to what has been written in the Bible. So you get Judas murdering, or you get Judas betraying Jesus for the 30 coins of silver, which is very infamous and has been mentioned a lot. If you ever like the Judas, the Benedict Arnolds, like those are very much the names that people bring up when talking about traitors. And again, none of the other characters are really all that memorable. But Brian, when Jesus goes into the temple and he basically says that making money in church and selling all these things in church is bad. How do right wingers look at that scene? Like, how do I'm just wondering. Like, did they not see the connection there, or what's
see,
going
this
on?
is this is where 11th grade philosophy comes into play. So it's this idea that Jesus is more of a liberal hippie than conservatives want to admit, which is true because he's very much a liberal.
I
He's
mean,
very
he
much like
literally hangs out.
socialists.
He literally. I mean, let's face it. He's not white. If Jesus was real, which there is evidence to suggest that there is a version of Jesus that is real, he's not white though, and he's hanging out with prostitutes and sinners and people with disabilities and physical deformities. Like that's pretty much what he does.
Yeah, and this idea kind of loses like the whole like heart of it and soul of it with conservatives. That's kind of like the idea because like as we know, conservatives like to use the word of Jesus and like turn it into this thing about like persecution and like holding people down and that kind of thing and like calling people sinners and when they're really not that they're not sinners at all. They're just good people or just people needing help or something like that. Jesus wanted to help people. So this it's very much this contradiction of what like especially like around the 70s and 80s when you have the rise of these television evangelists, right, who are just abusing their power and using people and just taking money, right? It's very much that idea, and that's a clash of this idea, and then conservatives kind of ignore this part of it and just ignore the
And,
fact that Jesus was
and I
this
want to
liberal hippie,
mention that I think that I think that's my favorite Ted Nealon scene is him destroying all
especially
the
when he's shoving
tickets.
over the souvenirs with the postcards. Did you notice that? God, that annoyed me. God, that annoyed me. Okay, that's a joke, I guess, that I just accidentally made in a movie
He
about Jesus. But
Yeah,
that's the thing that really annoyed me is like the modern stuff really annoyed me. Like I wish it was just like in whatever like 32 AD or whatever it was supposed to be or whatever. Because like this idea of like
or
we're
make
gonna
it make
have
it so
Jesus
make a
walk down the
decision like
fucking we're gonna
either
have him
either
walk
make
down
it
the desert.
modern, either do it modern or do it just
Yeah,
commit to
not
something.
halfway because it's confusing, man. Like the opening was confusing, but once you realize, like, okay, this is like this that Wes Anderson movie that came out a couple years ago, Asteroid City. It had that same concept where the beginning where they tell you this is not a movie, but it's like a TV version of events that happened, kind of thing. And I was like, okay,
Right.
that part annoyed me in Asteroid City. Just give me the fucking story and ignore this part about it's a story about a story, right? So in this case, it should have just started, in 32 AD and not necessarily have the purple exotic 70s colors and kind of ignore that and kind of more traditional. But you can still have the rock opera part of it and still have it fucking rock, which that part's no problem, right? Like it's
Again,
Tim
part of me
Rice.
wonders. I mean, it's weird to me. Like both of these movies came out in 1973. Both of these shows came out in 1971. So it's kind of amazing to me that they both came out at the same time, and like in they do have some similarities, but I mean obviously they're very different. Like the style of music is very different, but it's just kind of amazing to me that we have these two Jesus musicals that literally come out at the same time.
It happens, dude. It's just one of those things. Like, remember that one year in the '80s where there was like two Lombada movies or something competing? That's from the Canon Films doc, by the way.
I
You got to look
mean,
that shit up.
and there's I mean we got the two volcano movies, we got the two asteroid
Right,
movies, we got the
right.
two ant movies. I mean, it definitely happens.
We had the two Capote movies that one year, right? Or 2 years apart, or whatever it was. But very weird stuff. It just happens that way. Timing. But I think the difference is with this is that I think Tim Rice is like the X factor. Because if you know Tim Rice and the way he influenced Disney music in the '80s and '90s, it's like you can hear his like style in these songs. Like I can hear it because the way that like I don't know if it's him necessarily or his co-writers, but like any song that's associated with Tim Rice in Disney movies feels like the characters expressing themselves, right? And that's the vibe I'm getting with these songs is like the characters are expressing themselves. I
Yes.
didn't get that vibe in Godspell. You know what I mean? It was all preachy. In this case, I was getting what their deep emotions were, what they're
So
thinking,
I
especially
also I
Judas.
also want to point out that he did the best Bond, one of the best Bond songs for one of the worst Bond movies, All Time High from Octopussy. Great song, terrible movie.
Well, that's kind of that era of the great songs, bad movie, which is why
Yeah.
I love you
At
to a
some
kill.
point, at some point, we'll do the Bond lists finally
Yeah, I think once we get official confirmation of who's coming in new Bond, and I think I don't
if
know.
we ever get confirmation.
Come on, man! The contracts are gonna be expired. They got to do something. I
Good
mean, that's the way
luck.
it is, you would think. But yeah, I think the music here is just like it just speaks Tim Rice, and like I don't know what it is, but like immediately when I started hearing the lyrics, I was like, this is clearly the Tim Rice influence because it feels like I'm watching almost like a Disney movie where a character's like revealing their insides right now in song, and I don't know. I was digging it. I also dig the fact that Mary Magdalene was played by Yvonne Elliman, and I don't know if you know her, but like she's like a prominent song singer from the '70s, and like she sings one of the bigger songs from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, or "If I Can't Have You, I Don't Want Nobody, Baby. If I Can't Have You, ah."
See,
You ever
I
heard that?
promised I wouldn't sing on last week's episode, and here we are getting Brian singing on this week's
Hey, I'm
episode.
part Filipino. What do you expect? It's kind of like that thing. You ever seen that meme about like going to a karaoke bar with a drunk Filipino and then realizing he can sing? Like that happens to me a couple times a year. In this
That
case,
feels
like
racist, but you're Filipino, so I guess it's okay.
I guess I don't know. I've talked to other Filipinos about this. It's kind of happens to a lot of us. We're all good singers. What can we do? We all love R&B and shit. But in this case, man, this song is like, or her singing is like so like refreshing because I was not expecting like an actual singer, like a known singer, to be in this part, and like I was shocked that like they gave Mary Magdalene this much like stuff to sing about, and they're like her emotions and her feelings. Like
I mean, it's
she's talking
weird.
about
Like
what am
I
I
think
gonna
I
do?
think the singing is fine, but there's no there beyond just the singing. I think that's the issue.
Well, the other issue is that we know that it's a play, so that doesn't really help the fact. But if they just cut this in, if this was just 32 AD or whatever, it would have been better, I think. But
I mean,
in
it's
terms of
so
the
weird to me that
presentation,
these movies also are essentially the same length too. Like this, it's
they're
amazing
both
to
are now
me.
in 40 minutes. It's very weird, and one
Yes,
focuses more on the resurrection than the other. Um, yeah, that was the weird part. Like the Pontius Pilate scene was like very like rock opera.
it
You know what I
felt
mean?
very Monty Python in a way, and I don't think it worked totally. But
Well, I wasn't
um,
getting that vibe. I was getting like the whole like rock opera, like getting the crowd
I mean that
going
too.
kind of
It
thing.
it, it felt, but it like he felt very Monty Python. Like again, the Timu version of Monty Python, just in terms of the look
It's
and
not like he was
the
saying
aspect.
biggest dickus, like the biggest dickus
Right.
joke.
This is the. Have you? I mean, you've seen Life of Brian, right?
Oh yeah, I wrote a paper about it in 10th grade for extra credit. So
I
yeah,
mean, we almost could have done Life of Brian instead of Last Temptation, but I don't know that we're ever going to get a chance to talk about Last Temptation. So that's why
well,
that
not
can
only
take the
that,
time.
I mean, I
Like,
think throughout our whole history, we have never reviewed a Martin Scorsese movie. So I think we gotta fix that. I
I
think
mean,
this is
it's
the
kind
chance
of
to finally do it.
insanity. I mean, and that'll be the first one. We're not going to play with fire too much, but
Knock on wood, but yeah. Um, and I think the sets are great because obviously they filmed this in the desert and they specifically picked locations to match obviously the
I
set
mean, it's
pieces.
just nice that movies that take place in locations and are not being shot on green screen. That's anytime
Yeah,
I watch a
I'll
movie
give it
these
that.
days, like because so many movies are shot on green screen or in the volume, and all movies also are not lit very well and look like shit. But then you come to something like this, where it's well lit, you can see everything, and it looks like it was actually done on a set, and everything feels better.
Yeah, so overall I'm more positive about this movie just because I think the music is better. I
Yeah,
think the
I think
performances are
that's really true.
stronger. And then I'm a 7 out of 10, man. Like I was going into because I maybe I should have watched this first, but then we were going out of order of recording, and I usually like to watch them in order of recording if we're doing back to back tapings or something like that. And in this case, I don't know. I maybe I should have flipped it, and I may have been more positive on Godspell. But in this case, Jesus Christ Superstar was like a rockin' fun time for me. Even though I'm not a religious person, but it had that vibe that I was liking, the
I
rock
mean,
music.
you're
Yeah,
not watching these movies necessarily because of your feelings on religion. You're just interested in a good story or good singing, like, and that's what the movies deliver. I'm at a 6.5 out of 10. I'm not quite as high on you as on this, but I mean, look, Ted Neely and Carl Anderson make this movie make this movie worth watching, and we probably are underselling how good, or at least you are. You're underselling how good Carl
right.
Anderson
I
is.
just wanted to point out too that I learned something today that so King Herod was played by God, what's his name? Mostel. I forget his first name, but he's Zero Mostel's son. And you know who Zero Mostel is, right?
Who?
That's the dude from the producers, the older guy from
Oh,
the producers.
interesting.
So I was like, why does he
Interesting.
kind of look familiar? And then I looked up his name and like Mostel, and I was like, is he related to the other guy? And yeah, so his name is Josh Mostel, and if you look at him, he's a very familiar face. Like he's the Billy Madison, Big Daddy, in all those movies. But he's really fat in those movies, and he's fat in this one, but you don't quite recognize him. And then I had to look him up, and he's Zero
Ah,
Mostel's
yes,
son, so that's really
I am
cool.
looking at it. I am looking at him. So
Yeah, so that was a really
yeah,
cool
that's
connection.
really
And then apparently Jack Black was 20 years ago was invited to do the role of King Herod on a special live presentation of Jesus Christ Superstar. And not only that, I guess that night they had a reunion with Ted Neely and Yvonne Nealman or whatever, and then it was like this big reunion. So that was really cool that I didn't know about that. And apparently it's like one of those
I
lost media things too, which people
I
want to find.
I have a non sequitur for you. How the fuck does Super Mario Galaxy not write a song for Bowser? I
Okay, that was
you
the controversy. That was the controversy. I don't know. I feel like they
literally the
maybe
Peaches
did.
song is what stole the movie and got them an Oscar nomination. I don't understand how you don't give Bowser a
I don't
song.
know. There was something to that. I don't know if they didn't want to like go through that effort again to have nothing
I mean,
left to show for it.
it's a pretty lazy movie by anyway. And when I say
Well, I
lazy,
mean,
I mean
for us
like,
Nintendo fans, it's what we wanted. So it's like it's for the Nintendo fans. So that's pretty much what it is. So
so here's the thing. The animation is really good. It looks really good. So the animation, they showed up for work. They did their job. I give them a lot of credit. The screenwriters do not get any credit.
well, it's they
They get
wanted to adapt
nothing.
the game. It was all about the fan service. This was all fan service, and that's fine because it's for the fans, and that's what the fans are going to pay for, and they want their fan service. So we got Star Fox, but we didn't.
We better
Sorry,
get
Fox
like we
McCloud. I get that wrong.
look.
I
We've
got
gotten
fucking
some
served on
really
that.
good movies out of Illumination Entertainment. Um, we got the Wild Robot. That movie is incredible. There was another really good movie that I think is coming out in September. So we're getting those movies. Boy, howdy, we better be getting some really good ones because um, Mario ain't it for a lot of people, and it is for a lot of other people. So that's my non
We'll see,
sequitur.
because it made a lot of money, and the rumor is that they want to branch out and do a Star Fox movie and Luigi's
Absolutely going to
Mansion.
get that. they're gonna do a Donkey Kong. They're gonna do a Star.
Yeah, and then it's weird that the producer of these movies says we're not going to do a Super Smash Brothers. What are you kidding? And it felt like that's Kevin Feige saying, "Oh, we're not going to do an Avengers movie. Are you kidding?" And then you get the Avengers movie. So that's my take. But for non sequiturs, that was a pretty fun transition because I just mentioned Jack Black and he played King Herod in the one-time performance. And throughout this movie, I kept thinking like, man, Jack Black would have rocked this in a modern version. And I look it up, and he played the fucking King Herod in a version of it. So that just goes to show you that like this is the kind of rock that I like. I guess like that kind of like I'm not like a religious person, like I said, but when you kind of mix a little bit of that gospel with the rock, you know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of has that nice kind of like vibe to it. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
mean,
a
I think
George
religious
Harrison.
music actually works. Like, I think that's probably the thing about religion that is the least anger inducing is the music.
I mean, look at like Sinners and like George Harrison. Like they
Oh
make
man,
great gospel music that people don't want to call gospel music. Like the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when they go to Eagle's Planet and they're playing George Harrison. Like that felt like a religious experience, and that's supposed to because the music is supposed to evoke that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think as much as we criticize Christianity and stuff, I think gospel music gets a lot of
the
like
music is
flack.
not the problem.
It's definitely not the problem.
People,
Like
people are
it's
the
great
problem.
stuff. Yes, people are the problem, but gospel music is can be really influential, especially like I don't know. I always think of that Mark Cohen song "Walk In Memphis," um, and that's a great song, man. And it's a pop song, but it's a gospel song, and it got a lot of play. And it I think Jeff Jarrett did a music video to it back in the 1990s in USWA. So there you go. So
All right, next week we are going to be discussing the Last Temptation of Christ. I am really excited to talk about this. I don't think we have ever talked about a Martin Scorsese movie. That will change next week. It is going to be very interesting to see what our viewpoints are on it, to see if anything's changed or how our viewpoints have changed. But I am very, very interested to see how this will turn out. So, for Brian, I'm Jerome. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you again next week.